The World Economic Forum has just been exposed for manipulating data to push its, frankly, evil globalist intentions. Now, there's an internal investigation against Klaus Schwab, the founder and the chair of the board of the World Economic Forum, and his wife as well, who actually doesn't have any official role within the World Economic Forum. There are loads and loads of allegations here. There are leaked emails and communications, and in this video, I'm going to break down absolutely everything for you. I'm going to expose exactly what's happened, and I'm going to explain how the World Economic Forum is using its influence to promote globalism, to destroy countries' sovereignty, and to fight directly against democracy. Now, this all really starts with something called the World Economic Forum's Global Competitiveness Report. It used to be released every single year, but it stopped in 2020, and it was supposedly a better measure of a country's economy because it doesn't just look at things like GDP. There are a load of different characteristics. Actually, there's 12 of them. Institutions, infrastructure, macroeconomic framework, healthcare and education, higher education and job training, efficient goods markets, efficient labor markets, financial markets, utilization of technology, market size, production of goods, and innovation. Now, that seems fair. All of those points seem understandable. And the idea behind this report is that different parts would be weighted differently depending on how well developed a country is. For instance, if you are a poor third world country, well, strong infrastructure and strong institutions are incredibly important to economic growth. And if you don't have them, you're pretty much destined to remain a poor country, like we see with countries like the Democratic People's Republic of Congo. Whereas if you're looking at a first world services-based economy, something like Canada or the United Kingdom, well, innovation is far more important than infrastructure and institutions. And so this is supposed to give a good indicator of how the economy is performing now and how it's likely to perform over the coming years. Now, we had that Brexit referendum in 2016, and the World Economic Forum and other globalist organizations, people, and institutions fought against Brexit incredibly hard, but ultimately they lost. Now, there was absolute terror amongst globalists of other countries going similar routes, of leaving trade agreements, of putting up tariffs on imports, of going protectionist, and of not joining or respecting new globalist organizations as well. And so this massive scandal starts off by the World Economic Forum making a conscious decision to manipulate data to make the UK seem like it's as bad as possible or even worse, purely because of Brexit. Now, what we see here is that in the 2017 Global Competitiveness Report, it had the UK listed at number 7 in the world, and the 2017 report had the UK listed at number 4 in the world according to the data. But what we then saw is that Klaus Schwab, the face of the World Economic Forum, has had contacts and emails leaked directly where he says to the team making that report that, and I quote, "The UK must not see any improvement or else it would be exploited by the Brexit camp." So then the UK's ranking was changed from 4th in the world, which was 3 places up, to 8th in the world, which was 1 place down. The report said that Brexit will by definition weaken the UK's markets component as integration with the EU is rolled back. And this is blatantly clear. It is the World Economic Forum using data to manipulate and push its political globalist aims against democratic institutions. These ratings actually went on to guide Prime Minister Theresa May's policy objectives regarding Brexit going forward and how she wanted a very, very soft Brexit. We've also seen them manipulate other data as well, again with this Global Competitiveness Report, in this case with India. Basically, the WEF was trying to get India and its Prime Minister Modi to join the WEF for the next year, and so they manipulated the data to show India doing better than it actually was. In 2018, India was ranked 39th in the world, and in 2019, the real true data showed that India was downgraded by 20 places to 59th in the world. The World Economic Forum manipulated that report to show India at 40 places, only 1 down, and the quote from Klaus Schwab was very, very simple. "We must protect our relationship with India before Davos 2019. The scandal doesn't just stop there though, because the next thing is that Klaus Schwab has essentially been embezzling funds and committing fraud on a massive scale with the WEF. The accusations are that he treated treated the World Economic Forum like his fiefdom, which is extremely ironic considering his desire to return the world to practically serfs, which he can rule above without having to worry about democracy. He allowed discrimination and harassment, and he used intimidation to keep everyone in line. He personally sexually harassed a number of women at the World Economic Forum, and he accepted gifts and bribes from loads of different countries like jewelry and fur coats. And then, of course, as a final little cherry on top, he sent sexually suggestive emails to women late at night because he's a sick, sick man. It doesn't stop there. He was using WEF funds for his personal life and his wife's personal life as well. And this is basically a tax-exempt charitable organization. So he's using that status to avoid paying taxes and then stealing money from that institution. $1 million has been identified in purely personal expenses for Klaus Schwab that was paid for by the WEF. Things like flying on private jets and paying for hotels and holidays. And some of these expenses weren't even related to Klaus Schwab at all, but purely for his wife, who holds no role within the WEF at all. This is, to a great degree as well, actually taxpayer money. USAID gave $86 million to the WEF, money which was then siphoned off from this phony, fraudulent organization into the pockets of a frankly evil globalist. And what we see with this is that there has been a massive cloud shone over all other World Economic Forum actions, and this institution, it's now clear as day, cannot be trusted at all. In particular, a load of British politicians have come out massively opposing this. Priti Patel, a Tory shadow foreign secretary who used to be part of the cabinet, commented, "For such a senior figure in geopolitical affairs to have conspired and manipulated information against Brexit and the democratic outcome of a political process is a stain on the reputation of the WEF and those who are part of that forum, and it is thoroughly unacceptable." Another Conservative MP said the WEF had built its reputation on geopolitical thought leadership, but has now been exposed for its own anti-democratic practices. Nigel Farage said, "Every conspiracy theory about Klaus Schwab now turns out to be true. He is a dangerous globalist manipulator." Richard Tice, another member of Reform, said, "No surprise, the globalist WEF appears to have distorted facts to prevent sovereignty and independence being seen as a good thing. They're a dreadful organization that Reform will have nothing to do with." This goes on and on from the right, but notably the left wing is completely silent. No comments from Jeremy Corbyn, no comments from Keir Starmer, no comments from Rachel Reeves, these massive figures on the left, even though it's clear this globalist organization is actively trying to destroy the democratic institutions of the United Kingdom. Now, a lot of people will look at this and think, what's the big deal? What power does the WEF really have? But the reality is, they advise governments on policy all over the world. They maintain the Overton window regarding global media, stating what it is acceptable to have debate and discussion regarding. They've been pushing the green agenda, a ridiculous degree, at the World Economic Forum, and ever since then, governments have been pushing their green agenda at home. The WEF has been pushing for globalization to a ridiculous degree, and that's led to governments pushing for globalization at home as well. It's clear as day that they have huge degrees of influence over our politics, our countries, and this has proven that this organization is utterly corrupt and cannot be trusted. Frankly, it ought not even exist anymore. Now, what does this really mean for the WEF going forward? Well, Klaus Schwab has now been forced to resign and stand down. He is no longer the chair of the board at the WEF after these harassment claims, notably though, the media obviously ignoring the manipulation of data and the side tracking of democratic institutions from their headlines here. They stepped down as the board. And the really, really horrible thing here is that Christine Lagarde is expected to replace him. Currently, she's the president of the European Central Bank. She's the ex-finance and economy minister of France and an ex-managing director of the International Monetary Fund, the IMF. She's still the president of the ECB, the European Central Bank, until 2027, but she's in reported discussions to leave that early to chair the World Economic Forum instead. Let's make this clear. For Christine Lagarde, being the chairman of the World Economic Forum is more appealing and more powerful and will allow her to push her agenda further than heading up the second largest central bank in the world. She has pushed globalism at every opportunity. She has eroded away the independence and the sovereignty of countless European nations, and she believes in one European superstate led by bureaucrats and left-wing oligarchs. She's a massive advocate for outsourcing production to Asia and China. She's a massive advocate for mass immigration into the European Union. She is an enemy of the European people. And her position as head of the second largest central bank in the world is a step down from the position of chair of the World Economic Forum, or else she wouldn't even consider leaving her position currently to go over and chair the WEF instead. So what are the World Economic plans for our future? What are they going to do next to support globalism, and is it all over because they're getting so much negative press these days? No, it is not over. They are simply rebranding and picking new talking points which are going to bypass the knee-jerk reactions that all of us have. The first big thing they're talking about over and over again is stakeholders. Stakeholder capitalism, protect stakeholder interests. Now, who are stakeholders? Well, they're basically anyone affected by a company or a government's or an institution's actions. On the surface, this is just like the people, isn't it? And on the surface, prioritizing stakeholders is a good thing. But the World Economic Forum have an awful history of basically saying that people are too stupid to know what's good for them, and so we will be making their decisions for them. And global centralized governments that claim to be good for the people are without a doubt going to be bad. We see this all of the time. What is Korea? North Korea's real name? It's the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. That's basically 3 different ways of saying the government is for the people, despite them abusing the people and holding them under awful conditions for literally decades now. The World Economic Forum want the exact same thing. They just want control. What's another example of something they're doing? Talent scarcity, the missing workforce. How can we fill the talent gap? Basically, there is a problem within Western countries of an aging population and low birth rates and an unwillingness to work by natives, according to the World Economic Forum. And what they need, according to them, are talented, valuable people with skills. Skilled migration solves this. That's the entire basis of what the World Economic Forum is talking about when they talk about talent scarcity or the missing workforce, or how they can fill that talent gap. Now again, this is a Trojan horse. Governments simply use the mirage of skilled migration to deceive the public about mass immigration. In the United States, there's been a massive example of this. H-1B visas are for immigrants who are coming into the US who are skilled in an industry where there's a shortage of qualified workers. But there have been skilled visas from this H-1B visa scheme given out to immigrants for jobs as a cashier at 7-Eleven, making $22,000 a year. In what world is that possibly skilled labor? Well, in the world of government bureaucracy and globalism and the World Economic Forum. In the UK, we've had awful examples of this as well, with a single UK halal butcher shop giving out 100 skilled visas in just 2 years. Clearly, that is not skilled labour, first of all, that can't already be met by people in the UK. But also, this butcher shop is clearly committing employment fraud and visa fraud, as these people are simply using that skilled visa label to get into the United Kingdom to do the job. And then our governments go around and say, oh, we're only letting in skilled migrants who are productive, who are going to contribute to society, when the vast majority of these even skilled migrants are actually just fraudulent people lying about what they're doing to sneak into our countries. Now, the UK is taking this another step further. I can't tell you how jealous I am of America right now with your new leadership. We have new categories of skilled labour. Now, the government is constantly saying that we're going to have less mass immigration and more skilled labour migrants. Let's take a look at some of the examples of what skilled labour is according to the Labour socialist government in charge of our country. Magicians are skilled labourers now. Children's entertainers are skilled labourers now. Bloggers and flower arrangers are skilled labourers now. Supermarket trolley collectors and bingo hall managers are all now legally classified as skilled labourers, which means they can come into our country. And if we oppose it, we're opposing skilled labourers. This talent scarcity and this skilled labour idea is just a red herring for the World Economic Forum and other globalist institutions to push more mass immigration. Now, another thing that we're seeing the World Economic Forum push is buy globalization. Not just one great big global economy, because they've realized that people hate this idea, but two big rival global economies, one centered around the United States and one centered around China. Now, the World Economic Forum is hopping on the bandwagon of supporting decoupling supply chains, but they're pushing for production to be outsourced just to different poor countries. Not China anymore, just Brazil and maybe a South American country under buy globalization. Still has the exact same aims as globalization. They've just realized that they can't succeed if they're pushing for it across the entire world because of how plagued that term globalization is. So they're just making a marketing angle, a little shift in the way they display their ideas, but they're still the same ideas. Now, all of this really comes down to something called the Davos man, which is the type of person who works at or engages with the World Economic Forum. Now, this idea was coined in 2000 by a political scientist after the World Economic Forum itself. It's named after this. And the characteristics of the Davos man are really, really simple. They are ultra wealthy and globally mobile. Typically, we're talking about, CEOs, financiers, technocrats and bureaucrats and politicians who operate across borders and wield ridiculous levels of economic and political power. And so citizenship in a country or the success of a single country simply doesn't matter to these people because they can simply buy citizenship somewhere else, right? They already have homes all over the world. They already have private jets and private yachts for low luxury no matter where they are. So they do not care about the individuality of a country and its success. Next, they are cosmopolitan yet disconnected, right? They advocate, they speak for open markets, for free trade, for global cooperation, but they're often detached from the local economic and social struggles that all of this creates for average people. A perfect example of this is, again, mass immigration, right? It's causing crime. Well, not for them. Not for them. They don't experience any of this crime. First of all, they don't go where these people live in slums. They have bodyguards as well. They live in private residences. They have armed guards and they never go on public transport. So this crime never reaches them. And then they have public benevolence and private gain, right? They're always out there, espousing concern for global issues like climate change and inequality or social justice, but they don't actually give away their money to actually help fix inequality. They don't actually, commit to changing their behavior to helping the environment. They still fly on their private jets and build their commission, their huge yachts, contributing more to climate change than anyone else. And they only ever talk about social justice when it comes to other people giving up their privileges, not them giving up theirs. And then the final aspect of what Davos man is that they hold huge influence over corporations and governments, right? They meet with politicians in private, they host massive parties and events with billionaires and world leaders, and they push their agenda every single chance they get. But they are completely unelected and completely unaccountable. They're doing whatever they want, and they are always subversing against democratic institutions. Now, I do want to talk very, very briefly about Brexit here, and I try not to a lot on this channel because it's not too relevant anymore, to be perfectly honest. But Brexit right now has been exposed as being under attack from these globalist organizations, right? Globalists are frequently abusing data and trust in their institutions to push their agenda, and it's happened countless times against Brexit in particular. My views on Brexit, just for anyone who's curious, is that it was a necessary tragedy. If it was purely economic cooperation with the EU, that would have been a dream come true. But the political encroachments by the EU technocrats and oligarchs mean that no EU country is truly sovereign, right? The European Court of Human Rights overrides law in member countries. Right? Taxes are levied and funding is distributed by unelected bureaucrats and technocrats from the EU bloc. And the EU is actively working to dismantle European society by promoting mass immigration. So no, I'm not a supporter of the EU. I am a supporter of Brexit, but it's more in a sad reality state, because the people of Europe are wonderful. The people of Europe we have a huge amount in common with, but they are being abused by the oligarchs and the technocrats who run the EU, and that's why I support Brexit. And so far, no, Brexit has not been successful for the United Kingdom, let's be perfectly clear, and that's no surprise considering the globalist Tories and the globalist Labour government, being in charge in the United Kingdom, but it easily could be successful. We just need to use it and jump on the opportunities to slash taxes which are harming economic growth, to mass harvest the oil and the gas from the North Sea, to cut green subsidies and these dirty taxes, to slash corporation tax and attract foreign businesses, to slash wasteful government spending, to create net zero migration, and for mass deportation of illegal immigrants. All of this is possible thanks to Brexit, but we've never had a government in power which actually wants the United Kingdom to succeed. We've only had governments in power for the last 2.5 decades which want the UK to become this globalist hodgepodge and mess. The World Economic Forum is clearly out there manipulating data to push public opinion against things which they oppose. Right? Christine Lagarde, the president of the European Central Bank, is more than likely going to become the chair of the board of the World Economic Forum. And the evidence really does, in my opinion, prove that Brexit is necessary. These two organizations are in cahoots, the EU and the WEF. The EU is an evil globalist organization run by people desperate to destroy borders, to destroy society, to destroy European culture, to destroy those countries, and to control everything in its stead.